Hello, my name is Dr. Yaya Sissoko, Professor of Economics, Department of Finance and Economics at Indiana University of Pennsylvania. Today we're going to talk about Chapter 1, Introduction to Labor Economics. This video is about why do we need a theory. We need a theory to explain and understand how labor market works. In other words, we want to establish the relationship between the three actors, workers, firm, and government, eh, and how this relationship, changes. The theory also will help us to focus on the essential variables while leaving out less crucial factors. The variable which are very important will be essential to will be very important to to the theory. For instance, the wages. How many how many how many people will be willing to work, and how many people businesses are willing to hire. So would be crucial to the theory. The theory also will help us to create a model that help explain the theory itself. The model will allow us to explain why labor supply curve is positively slope or upward sloping, while labor demand curve is negatively slope or downward sloping, for instance. This is the diagram of the labor theory. The idea of the labor theory, was developed by John Locke, Adam Smith, and David Ricardo. So the labor theory can be divided into two branches. The first one is the labor theory of value, and the second one is the labor theory of properties. And then the labor theory of value, you know, uh, is divided into labor as the measure of the value, which was developed by Karl Marx and in his book The Capital. The second one is the labor as the source of value of the product. This idea was developed by Ricardian socialists Thomas Anselson and Pierre-Joseph Proudhon, which finally led to the modern labor theory of product. The theory explains how the value in the economy can be created from the three types of resources, which are capital, example would be machinery, equipment, labor, example would be worker, and land, which is the physical space where you can, do farming, and also as well as the natural resources, so that can be produced from the land. So this value, can be distributed as income in the economy as profit, salaries, and rent. The profit is given back to the owner of the capital. The salary or wage is given back to the owner of labor, and the rent is given back to as income to the owner of land. The circular flow also help explain the theory. So in the circular flow diagram or circular flow model, we have two type of market. The first one is market for resources, and the second one is a market for goods and services. In the market for resources, so household provide, labor, capital, and land. So these resources are purchased by businesses. So so they are which will constitute the cost of production for these businesses. So they pay wages, interest, and rent, and to household. The household will receive wages for labor, and then interest for capital, and rent for land. So once the goods and services are produced, business will take these product or goods and services, for instance, car for the good, services, for instance, banking services or education, for instance, to the good and service market. So household will purchase these goods and services from business firm in the market for goods and services using the income they earn from the labor market. So household will spend their income, wages, interest, or rent to purchase the goods and services, and business will receive revenue for selling the goods and services to household in a good and in a good and services market. So the model of a positive and normative economics help explain the theory. So what is a positive economics? Positive economics addresses the facts, focuses on what it is, answer to the question with the tools of economics. So with positive economics, you have to have proof and statistics. Example of a positive economy, include what is the minimum, the impact, what is the impact of minimum wage on unemployment? So another example is what is the impact of immigration on the earning of native born workers? So another example is what is the impact of a tuition assistance program on college enrollment rate? So in this example, you can always verify the statistic about the impact of minimum wage on employment, the impact of immigration on the earning of native-born workers, or the impact of a tuition assistance program on college enrollment rate. On the other hand, what is normative economics? Normative economics addresses value and focuses on what should be. It requires judgment value. So, in other words, with normative economics, you are providing judgment value, you're providing personal opinion. So, anytime you see the word should, then you're talking about normative economics because you're providing your own personal opinion. Examples of normative economics will include should the oil pipeline have been built in Alaska? Uh, Another example is should there be a minimum wage? Should the government subsidize, college tuition? Should the United States accept more immigrants? Should the unemployment insurance benefit be less, generous, for instance? So where are we going? So the labor market help us understand, how worker supply decisions are made. Workers make decisions based on the wage rate. At higher wage rate, so the more and more workers are willing to work. At lower wage rate, less and less workers are willing to work. Also, firm demand decision. Firm would base the decision to hire worker based on the wage rate. At higher wage rate, firm will hire less worker. So at lower wage rate, firm will hire more worker. So also, so labor market equilibrium. Labor market will be in equilibrium whenever labor supply and labor demand crosses. So then we can find the equilibrium wage, and the equilibrium um, value of employment. The labor markets also talk about the differences in job characteristics. So the characteristic of each job will, and require the qualification that a worker must have in order to be hired for the position by a business firm. For instance, for me to be able to teach this class, online, I have to be able, to record, the lecture on video and post this video online so that my student, can watch them. The other aspect of the labor market talk about the differences in worker characteristics. So the characteristics of each worker would depend on their experience, the level of training or workshop, and also their education. Do they have a high school diploma or college degree, for instance? Labor market also analyzes, labor mobility. Labor mobility is based on can be based on geographic migration, which could be internal. So, for instance, a worker in the US, so could be moving from rural area to urban area in order to get a, higher paying job. Another, type of labor mobility could be, so external mobility or international mobility. Worker will be moving from the native, country to the foreign country. For instance, worker from Africa, will move or will migrate to the US in order to get better, opportunities. Labor market also investigate, market discrimination. Market discrimination could be based on race or gender. So for instance, at equal qualification, a business is going to pay, women and men the same, wage rate. So another discrimination could be based on race, so at equal qualification, and so are black worker going to receive the same wage rate, and like with white worker, for instance, in the US. Labor market also investigate the following: unionization. How is labor unions being able to bargain higher wages for the member, and what is the impact of labor union on the economy? Incentive pay shame. Some businesses will pay higher wages, also known as efficient wages, to more productive worker in order to attract them and to retain those you know uh, wo- productive worker. So also unemployment, we talk about, so the type of unemployment, the duration of unemployment, so for instance, this is the end of the video about why do we need a theory. Next time we'll talk about an introduction to regression analysis. Thank you.